What's up, all my Ewoks, triples, and droids? It's Anna, also known as that Star Wars girl, and today I'm going to be doing another art critique of the Duel of the Fates concept art that was leaked a few weeks ago. Now, I already broke down some of these images, and the link for that video is in the description of this video if you want to go check that out if you've missed it because you're new to my channel, and if so, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. Now, I should have made this clearer in the previous video. I'm a professional artist. I've been working in the industry for some time now. Everything I've been doing is freelance, however, and so I cannot show any of it because it is not technically owned by me. If you would like to see examples of my artwork, there is a little clip at the end of this video that always plays, which is just my personal projects and stuff. And then the 3D work that I do, which is what I reference as 3D modeling mixed with photo bashing, which was I talked about a lot in the last review, which I will probably do in this one as well. That kind of stuff I used to have posted on an Instagram, but I have since then taken that down, and so now this images I believe can be found on Twitter, or I can start posting them again if you'd like on my new Star Wars girl Instagram, so that's where you can find that kind of stuff. But that being said, without further ado, let's get back into these critiques. Alright everyone, so I have this original post of the concept art up. This is actually where I got the link to the Reddit was here. If you guys, I've talked about this account a few times here on my channel. If you do have a Twitter and you want to follow someone that is always releasing breaking news, I would highly recommend following Tugs. Her little handle is that Tug Life. She is always posting, you know, breaking news as well as the links to the breaking news, which is very handy because it's very different getting a screenshot of something as compared to getting a link to something. So I saw these images going around on Twitter, but there was no links to actually where they had gotten them, and she was the one that posted the link. So thank you so much to Tugs. I talked about, I believe, this image, excuse me, not that one, this image, but they show up very, very blurry here on Twitter. I don't know why, but this one is a lot of photo bashing with paint over, especially on Leia, which is completely fine to do. There's nothing wrong with an artist doing photo bashing, but it is one of those things that any professional working artist can spot out, and it sticks out like a sore thumb. Now, normies probably won't notice this. They might notice that something is slightly off, but they're not going to know exactly what the terminology is for that. Now, this image, I feel like they were really trying to capture a McQuarrie-esque style. Now, again, like I've said before, it's, if I don't care about the characters, I don't have investment in these images. That being said, this is a very well constructed composition. You have the, you know, your focal point right here, and it's the darkest value next to your lightest value, and that's, you know, what creates that contrast, and it also draws the viewer's eye in. So this is the first place we look. We're like, what's that? And then the light shines down, and we see another, you know, little version of high contrast next to, you know, just everything that is this character, and you can kind of see that. And so we see, oh, Kylo Ren is getting a helmet put on him just like Darth Vader did. Now, I think that Kylo Ren is the worst character in the new Star Wars. I know that that's not popular. I know a lot of people actually think he's the best character. I personally think he is the absolute worst, and if you want to understand why, go watch my very first video here on this channel, which is my review of The Last Jedi. And I don't know if you guys could hear Tulip is barking in the background because I think she agrees with me. And so then we have this, and yes, again, this is photo bashing with some 3D elements and paint overs. But let's actually go back to where I was before on the Reddit post. So this is the one that I kind of talked about a little bit with the Adventures of the Traveling Stick Salesman. Now, one of the reasons why I want to focus on this is because it does a great example of how value does all the work, but color gets all the credit. I say this all the time whenever I do art videos. It's, you know, it's keen. You have to get the warm light and the cool shadows, or the cool light and the warm shadows, because it adds that next level of dimension to your images that will make them more relatable and more believable to the people that are looking at it. And so when you see something like this, obviously we are looking at Rey, who is the traveling stick salesman in this little composition, and it's the highest contrast next to, you know, the darkest dark, next next to the brightest, well, I would say white, but it's not. But so that's why you see this perfect outline of her. And then so if we made this just grayscale, she would be the darkest right here. I mean, you can argue right here and like other blacks and stuff, but as far as establishing components within a composition, that's what she is. You know, you got her, you got some ice, you got the ship, you got the ocean, and you got some other ships in the background. She is the main focal point of this. And why do we know that? Because darkest dark next to the brightest bright. And then also we have the difference in color values, and so you can see everything else in this image is cool, and then the light source for this is warm. Your eye is drawn in. Everything about this composition draws you into where Rey is standing, you know, and she's even perfectly framed. You have the circle, which is, you know, the farthest back point in this ship. Like this ship, it's that's supposed to be like, I mean, you can interchange this with a ship, and you can very easily make this a cave, right? And so let's imagine if we just change this from a spaceship to a cave. And so you have the opening of the cave, that we are looking into this cave, and we are seeing her back in the distance next to the fire. So this is a technique, and again, this is something that whenever artists are doing thumbnails, you just draw the bare minimum, and, you know, just to get the point across. So this would have been, you know, this, some foreground, and then her in the back, very small, with fire. And so that could be a cave. It could be a spaceship. It could be trees. It could be, you know, in the depths of the ocean and a bunch of coral. It's interchangeable, but the point still comes across. They want you to see her standing back in the distance, and the way that they are drawing you in, you know, everything about this is drawing you into her. Look at the directional lines. Even right here, this little, I'm assuming that's part of the ship that broke off. Even that, everything is pointing to her. The only thing that's not are these stalagmites and stalactites, because, you know, they're different. But so yeah, everything about this is pointing to Rey. She is the focal point, and not only is that being told with directional lines, not only is that being told with values, it's also being told with color. And so they just put this color over, you know, the values, and it draws you in. Your eye is going to the biggest contrast in values as well as the biggest contrast in color. This is a very, very good composition. And this is also, you know, the person that did this, they are, you know, they know how to use light and shadows, they know how to use color, and they know how to set up a composition. So kudos to this person, and take in mind these techniques for when you're doing your own work to add that next step in composition and color. It's really going to help you out. And so that one I kind of talked about on Twitter, this one as well. You can clearly see in this that they brought in Princess Leia's head. I think this is actually one of the images where she's looking down, but when she's in her other uniform, and they just did a complete paint over of her, and then they brought in some trees. They added a posterized layer in Photoshop. Even this, everything in this is Photoshop with some paint over, which there's nothing wrong with that, especially when you have a deadline. But someone like me that, you know, does this for a living, you can see it sticks out like a sore thumb. And normies won't get it, but people that do work in the industry do. And again, there is nothing wrong with photo bashing if you get your point across. Maybe you're in the middle of a board meeting, and, you know, everyone's bopping up ideas, and the artist is sitting there like, oh, you mean like this? You want Leia to look like this, and you just pull an image off of Google and you just do a really quick paint over. That is still considered concept art, and so that makes sense as why it would be included in here. But understand that this is a very, very different technique than something like this. Somebody spent a lot of time rendering this, and for those of you that don't know, rendering is just a fancy word that artists use to say that you colored it, or you went from just a line drawing to adding form and, you know, values to it. So that's what I mean when I'm saying rendering. So this I hope this didn't take as much time as this, because this person put a lot more work into this than they did on this one. And guess what? Both of the ideas come across. You know exactly what you are supposed to be looking at in this image just as much as you're supposed to know for all three of these images actually. So it's not that this concept art is bad, it's just that there are different types of concept art. There's different types of work in this industry, or different types of work that you can put out that will still be considered concept art, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now I think I've scrolled through this. This one, again, it's if it'll load. You got some aliens. This one is very much so photo bashing, and they put over some blur layers, and they did some little paint overs, and again, you can tell, like, obviously that this is a picture of somebody's hand that they just photoshopped in, and they, did all of this. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. This fire, and they did not paint that. They did a layer on that. And so there's nothing really much for me to critique, especially in photo bashing. It's like I can point out what they did, and, the image works, but at the same time, this is telling a story. This is more of a narrative point, whereas something like this is an establishing shot. And so I can sit here and talk about how I can pick out every layer, but that's not really an art critique. That's more of a technical thing, and that's what you get when you have photo bashing. Again, this is a 3D rendered image, and you can render explosions as well. I believe that one, I know how to do it in ZBrush and in Modo, not so much as in Maya, but I think what they did was they had what they needed, and then they photoshopped this in as well. So again, that's photo bashing. That's more of a technical thing. I think that this one stands out a lot more than this, but that's because this person put a lot more painting effects and blur layers and levels into it, as compared to this where they just pulled in a planet, they pulled in their ship that they modeled, and then they added this explosion, which again, there's nothing wrong with it. You get the concept across, right? And then, you build up from there. So this image was one that, again, I'm not really, I don't care too much about Rey. I don't care too much about about Poe. Finn is the only one that I really have any kind of investment in, and that's being extremely generous. I think out of all of the characters, he was the one that had the most potential, and what they did with him was a complete waste. He should have been the main character in this trilogy, and the story should have been told from his point of view, and that would have been really interesting as a stormtrooper that was taken as a child, and then, was brainwashed, sees the death of a friend, and then decides to, revolt and escape and go live his own life, runs into a Force-sensitive person, and goes on an adventure to find Luke Skywalker. That sounds immensely more interesting when you especially phrase that way, as compared to a Mary Sue that was living on a planet with absolutely no ambition in life, and all of a sudden just was good at everything without any training whatsoever. I think if we would have followed Poe's story, or excuse me, Finn, I always get their names mixed up, it would have been a lot more interesting. Now, the one thing that I do find, very intriguing about this image, and again, her face is photo bashed in, is the lightsaber. I think that they really did, especially by just giving her, Anakin and Luke's old lightsaber, they should have shown her constructing, start off the movie with her constructing her lightsaber, and since she does use a staff, she should have had a double-bladed lightsaber. It would have made sense for her character. It would have also made sense for her fighting style. For those of you that are familiar with fighting, or especially with Jedi and Sith fighting styles, you will understand what I'm talking about. It just made so much more sense for her character. I personally also thought that her lightsaber should have been green. That's just me and my own personal opinion based off of why people get certain lightsaber colors. It would have made sense for the Mary Sue herself to have a green lightsaber, because usually we only see the most powerful Jedi with those lightsabers. And I always was told, and it's something that I was told as a very young child in one of those how to read Star Wars with Star Wars books, that blue was bravery, green was knowledge, and purple was power, and then red was passion. I know I don't think she's the most intelligent person, but when you think of somebody like Yoda, like Luke, people that are extraordinary in the Force, and since she is a Mary Sue, that would make her extraordinary in the Force. I think it would have made sense to have her have a green lightsaber. And also, I was kind of ticked off at the end of Rise of Skywalker because yellow is my favorite color. Obviously, you can tell by my channel and the lightsaber in, this video. I like yellow, and it pissed me off that she was the first one on, the big screen with the yellow lightsaber. lightsaber. It really ticked me off. All right, so let's look at this image. Okay, again, this was all rendered in 3D, and then they did a lot of painting over. You can 100% tell. Like, just look at this. You can see all of it. You even have the shadows that were rendered in. So this is a 3D model that was brought in, and then they did some layers over in Photoshop and did paint overs. Now, One Pixel Brush is a concept art company that does this a lot. You know, I have a few friends that work there, and so this is actually a big industry for concept artists that want to work in live action movies and on video games. They like this kind of stuff as compared to the more painterly full rendered where you don't use any 3D. You use this because when you do 3D modeling and you do concept art for it, it's going to give people that are normies, that aren't artistically inclined, more of a picture in their head of what it's going to look like when you finish the film. So as far as business people wise, they always like to see this stuff more as compared to more painterly stuff like this and like this. Because if you've ever had to explain to a normie what you mean, oh, you know, an alien civilization that's kind of, I wouldn't say post-apocalyptic, but on the not so refined edge of space where stormtroopers are coming and they have dogs and, you know, they're like the snow sand people, or the snow version of sand people. Normie's not going to understand what the hell you're talking about. You show them a picture like this, they're like, yes, we like that. We can see that in a movie. Let's use it. So if you're an artist that's aspiring to work in live action or in AAA video games, this is the kind of style that I would recommend for you as compared to something like this. Alright, well, obviously, again, I was not able to get through all of the concept art. There is a lot of it, and like I said in my last video, I could spend minimum of half an hour talking about each individual image. So there's a lot to cover, and I decided before making this video that I wanted to do these in a trilogy because there's no way I was going to be able to cover it in just 2 videos. So in the next video, I'm going to cover some of the images that I saw that weren't necessary. I will cover a few of them here on Reddit, but also some of them that I just found in a quick Google search that I remember were circulating around Twitter because of the intensity of the composition of those images. So stay tuned tomorrow for part 3 of this trilogy of me breaking down the concept art for Duel of the Fates. So thank you so much everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you didn't, that's okay too. And if you would like to support me and my channel, please just take a second to share this on social media. It will really help me out on my algorithm, and as well do it for, you know, other small independent YouTubers as well, because YouTube is making it harder and harder every single day for independent YouTubers to you know, get any kind of traction here on their platform, because they are trying to make space for, you know, bigger corporations to come and take over. And so the way to fight that is to share the word, since YouTube doesn't like to help promote, you know, the people that made them what they are. But anyway, guys, thank you so much again for watching, and until next time, have a great rest of your day, and may the force be with you, because we are really going to need it. Bye, everyone. What's up, everyone? It's Anna, also known as That Star Wars Girl, and I have an Etsy store, so if you've ever wanted to own a print of my artwork, this is the place to go. As you can see, I have a lot of recognizable characters, from horror films to heroes to Star Wars characters. Some of the notable characters I have on here are Darth Vader, which I did a couple live streams painting, so you can own a print of this painting. I also have Luke Skywalker, the Binary Sunset version, one of my favorite scenes in the original New Hope movie. I have Darth Maul, which Ray Parks himself actually complimented me on Instagram. And then last but certainly not least, Ahsoka Tano. So if you want to own any of these prints, go right on over to my Etsy store. Again, that's The Art of Anna, That Star Wars Girl, or TSWG for short. Thank you, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. What's up, everyone? I have a P.O. box, so if you want to send me some mail, go ahead and send it to Anna, that Star Wars girl, or TSWG for short, at P.O. Box number 28171, Santa Ana, California, 927998171. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.